Okay, so when I ask these questions, I would like you to think broadly about your students, not only the group you are teaching right now, but in general, the groups that you've had during your years of experience teaching.
Mhm.
Um, and also try to provide as much detail as you can. You don't have to like talk about necessarily specific cases, but if there are things that you remember and you want to elaborate on them, that would be
Mhm.
awesome.
Okay.
So the first question is, how would you describe student participation during a math lesson? What are some key things you have noticed, or do you find any particular behaviors or attitude in specific students?
Yes. So it's more so this year. I will preface the entire conversation with this year. We are noticing that children coming into kindergarten have a major lack of social skills, problem solving skills. They are not independent at all in any aspect. You're talking, they're coming in holding their pencils like this, not knowing how to hold scissors, like anything. And it's very evident that they've been learning on tablets, playing on computers, playing on smartphones, or they just have been at home because of the pandemic. So I've always seen it a little bit in certain students, but this year as a whole and across the whole kindergarten, we're noticing particularly they just want to play. They haven't seen these manipulatives. So many of them have not been in a structured setting prior to kindergarten, such as pre-K, daycare, anything like that. They're particularly playful, talkative. They can't sit still for longer or attend for longer than a few minutes at a time, and that problem is more prominent now than it has been in the past. But I know for me personally, I give my kids a busy box and it has all the math manipulatives in it that they would use during a lesson that week or throughout the year: cubes, counters, things like that. And when they're finished with their morning routine, they play with those things. So we call that the busy box. So that curbs that desire to want to play with it during our lesson. So we call it our toolbox during the lesson. And so we say, use your materials as tools, not toys. And so that has helped a little bit with those types of behaviors. Not having just the basic skills, not having the basic skills of just being able to count one-to-one correspondence is lacking. Being able to count past like 5 or 6 was lacking. Just those inattentive behaviors. And we are using a new program this year called Envisions. And across the whole school, we're struggling with the fact that it's not very, it doesn't align with our curriculum. It aligns with our standards. But for example, we've been given a pacing guide. And this may be veering off your question a little bit, but it'll help me come back around to it. So we have this pacing guide. If you are not teaching what is on our district's pacing guide that day with that lesson, and somebody from the district comes in or your admin comes in, we are under so much pressure as teachers. I think that affects their attitude towards the lesson, because we are so afraid that if we don't get this solve and share in, and then you're not using this right, or you're not using the terminology right, we're so afraid that all of those things are not going to give these kids what they need, while showing them that we're doing what you're telling us to do, but it's not what the kids need. They need hands-on, the full lesson. They need exploration. They need time to problem solve and learn how to solve these problems, on their own, and then sharing it out with a partner and having that partner talk to them about there are multiple ways to solve a problem. And so then we start to see some of those attitudes of, I don't like this. I don't want to do this. They just sit. So we are having to, kind of like we say, we feel like we're in a Broadway musical every time we're teaching, because we're trying to compete with video games. We're trying to be animated. Yet if somebody comes in, we're like, do I have all the components that I have to have for this? and they're back and like they expect kindergartners to listen to a little video, solve it at their seat. They want them to have that constructive like frustration and then learn how to solve it. But these kids aren't ready for that yet. So that's kind of like, they're like, why I can't get this, or it's starting to get a little bit better, but we just kind of notice some of those things. And then on our report cards, it's not aligning with what we have to report out that quarter. So like first quarter, we usually teach that stuff in the fourth quarter, but yet they want us to teach it and grade it plus follow the pacing guide. So it doesn't match. So